continue this committee's oversight into U.S. policy towards the Cuban dictatorship. Almost 6 months ago, I held a field hearing in Miami to examine the Obama administration's failures with regard to Cuba policy. Today, we're joined by our fellow citizens who are acutely aware of the failures of that policy. Armando Alejandre Jr., Pablo Morales, Mario de la Peña, and Carlos Costa. These are the names of the 4 men killed in a savage attack by the Castro regime on February 24th, 1996. It is my hope that our Department of Justice will indict Raul Castro and others responsible for this barbarous act. Armando, Pablo, Mario, and Carlos were flying on a humanitarian mission to help desperate men, women, and children fleeing the oppressive Castro regime in makeshift rafts. They were warriors on the front lines of freedom, doing their part in the struggle against the evil, totalitarian Cuban government. These brave men, flying unarmed, were shot down over international waters by Cuban MiGs, a heinous crime that defies comprehension, except we're talking about the Castros. These 2 gangsters took pleasure in human rights abuses and spreading chaos throughout the region. Unfortunately, our government has failed to hold Cuba's leaders accountable. In fact, under the Obama administration, the United States released the men convicted for their role in connection with the 1996 attack. One man in particular, Gerardo Hernandez, had his wish come true by the Obama administration, which supported Hernandez in his quest to impregnate his wife with artificial insemination. It'd be laughable if it weren't so true, but our government helped the convicted terrorist get his wife pregnant while he sat in federal prison. To top it off, Hernandez was then released back to Cuba, where he received a hero's welcome. It is sickening, and it was and is a disgrace. We're also here today to talk about what the Trump administration has done with regards to Cuba and what it can do in the future, because we can do more. We must indict criminals like Raul Castro. We can indict them and place economic sanctions on other senior officials of the Cuban government. We can get back the fugitives and cop killers like Joanne Chesimard. However, I'm deeply concerned that the bureaucracy in the State Department is purposely disregarding and undermining President Trump's Cuba policies. We may be seeing the final gasp of the holdovers attempting to continue down the failed policy course. The President, in his speech in Little Havana last June, made it clear, quote, "We will not lift sanctions on the Cuban regime until all political prisoners are freed, freedoms of assembly and expression are respected, all political parties are legalized, and free and internationally supervised elections are scheduled," end quote. I'll make sure to follow up with the President, the Secretary of State, and the National Security Council to ensure that all these things happen. This committee will continue to pursue the corrupt bureaucrats who obstruct and enable this regime. We owe it to men like Armando, Pablo, Mario, and Carlos. We owe it to their loved ones. We owe it to those in Cuba who live this nightmare every day. It is my honor and privilege to have the family members of the men murdered on that day in February 1996 here today, as a reminder that the fight for justice continues. We won't forget and will continue the fight. Today with us testifying about that fight is Miriam de la Peña. Miriam is the mother of Mario, and we are so honored to have you here to testify. We're also grateful that your husband Mario is here as well. Thank you, and God bless. We're also blessed to have Ana Alejandre Ciresco. Now, did I say that right? Ana is the sister of Armando, and again, we are very honored to have you here today, and I thank you for coming. We also have Mr. Jason Poblete, a national security and federal regulatory lawyer in private practice who is an expert in Cuba policy issues and can help us understand what we can do right now to take action against Cuba's leaders. Next is Ambassador Roger Noriega, who is caught in traffic and also served as Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs in the Bush administration. Before that, he was the U.S. permanent representative to OIS, the Organization of American States, and he can provide more details about what the regime is doing around the region and throughout the world. Finally, we have William Leo Grande, Professor of Government and Dean of the American University School of Public Affairs. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. We look forward to your testimony. And with that, I would like to recognize the ranking member of the committee, Mr. Lynch, for 5 minutes.